the call I had the other day was so interesting because she talked about, she was Aboriginal. So she's talking about the Aboriginal generational trauma. Like it's deep in them. And also the victim of taking the handouts. Like how many handouts? And there are so many handouts in Australia for Aboriginal people.
And what does
so,
that mean for her? Like,
yeah, well, for her, she had to unravel all of those stories about taking the handouts, being a victim, being in that place, because she could have. And of course, we have Centrelink in Australia, which is, it's a great handout, especially as a parent. It's a great handout. So I kind of want to start with your money story, because this is about money. So where did your money background start? What was your upbringing around money?
So I grew up on 25 acres with a family who we were just, I guess, average. So both my parents were nurses. So not a heap of money, but we were never, like, I wouldn't have considered us poor. But in saying that, we didn't wear like brand name clothes or shoes or, you know, all that sort of silly stuff at school that seems important at school. So I remember from childhood, you know, my mom or dad saying like money doesn't grow on trees and those types of statements, like it's hard to get money and you need to be sensible with your money. And there was another one that was like a fool and his money is easily parted. So it was all about
Oh, I
like,
haven't heard that one.
yeah, a fool and his money is easily parted. And my dad used to say that. And I've said that a lot in my adult life, you know, don't be a fool and pay too much for something, you know, only a fool will part with his money around those things. And I can see how that's really played out in my adult life. And I'll give you an example of, you know, when I first met my now husband, we would go out and he would just straight up get, you know, the big brekkie or whatever he wanted, like a, you know, for a breakfast meal, it's probably like $27-30. And for me, I'd be like, I'd look at the specials list and then I go, oh, what do I want? Do I want to spend that much? Do I want to just like, I think I'll just get a bacon and egg roll, but I really want, you know, the halloumi stack or whatever. But my money story was like a fool and his money is easily parted. You know, like you don't want to pay $27 for the thing that you really want when you can get something over here that's kind of okay, that's a good price. That's the sensible option. So I
Value
lived
for dollar.
yeah, right. So I
Yeah.
lived my life like eating the food that I didn't want to eat. But I was still paying for it. You know, you're still going out, you're still buying these things. So over time, and it's funny, I've actually witnessed, you know, I took my brother and I took my dad out for lunch just for his birthday recently, sat down straight away. He's like, oh, what's on the special boards for lunch? And I'm thinking, just get what you want, Dad. Just get what you want. I'm like, out of all the days, today's your birthday, just buddy, get what you want. And my brother and I we were talking about this, how we grew up with money. And, you know, my brother goes, yeah, I was looking, going, do I want to pay $3 extra for the sauce? I'm like, it's fucking $3. If you want the sauce, get it and feel good about it. This is the thing, right? I've been programmed to feel bad about spending money. I've been programmed to be disempowered about spending money, as opposed to getting exactly what I want to eat and paying for it and feeling really good about it. Whereas in the past, I would have bought what I wanted if occasionally and felt guilty about it. So like it wasn't worth actually buying the thing. Whereas now I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to get, you know, the calamari salad and I'm going to like add this on and I'm going to get myself a nice glass of like the exact wine that I want to get. And I feel really good about doing that.
So if you didn't have money, let's say you were on Centrelink, would you but I guess you wouldn't be on Centrelink with that mindset, because that mindset opens up an abundance channel that doesn't exist. So it's kind of like this, what if you are on Centrelink, or what if you are, or what if you have a really low paying job, then going and spending that kind of money on food? It's like, which
so
comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah. So I think it's comparative to your circumstances. And if you are, you know, on Centrelink, or you're someone who has, you know, is living paycheck to paycheck, your priority probably isn't feeling abundant with buying the most expensive thing on the meal. It might be something different that has the same meaning. So it could be, going to the grocery store with things that you might we'll call essentially need, as opposed to as a luxury. And it might be like choosing good to feel about the organic produce as opposed to the non-organic produce, or making the decision around, I'm going to get this brand name biscuits. So like that was another thing my husband used to rip me off. I just buy like the cheap no name biscuits, and he's like, what are you doing? Like, you need to get the brand name. And I'm like,
don't get the fake Kingstons, you got to get the real
that's
Kingstons.
Right, don't get the fake ones. It would all be the same. So I can see how my childhood money stuff has played out to some degree. And I think the flip side of this was when I was in my teens, I really noticed my cousin's family were quite wealthy, and noticing the differences in the cars that they drove, the clothes that they wear, the way that they see themselves. And with that, my family story around like money, and like you watch a lot of cartoons, and Cruella de Vil, or like people who have lots of money, they're evil, they're snobs, they're you've got to be a brown noser to have money, or like what there's a lot of I guess assumption that people who have money are bad people, or have got there in this like ecological way, as opposed to someone who's actually doing the world really good, and they're also abundant and they have money. So I think a lot of people play out this like, I don't want to be the villain, I don't want to be the bad guy, and actually put their own money blocks up in place, because they have always been shown that rich people are snobs, or rich people are jerks, or rich people are assholes. But in fact, like, there are a lot of like really nice and wonderful people who also have money.
It's really interesting you say that, because my upbringing, our next door neighbors were the ones that had money. So it's kind of weird. My mum was a single mum, and we didn't have a lot of money growing up, but she bought the house when she was a teacher, so she had a good salary. And this is kind of before interest rates went up and things went crazy. And the house back then, this is like 47 years ago. So 47 years ago, houses, they were affordable back then. It's not like it is now. You could buy a house and pay it off by the time you retire back then. But she didn't have any spare money. They had a lot of spare money. So they'd go on holidays. They would get the kitchen redone. If mum had a little bit done on her kitchen, then they had to get the whole kitchen done. If she bought a new car, they had to get a new car, but the next car up, like, they had to get the better model than what she had. It was weird. Mum got a microwave. They had to get a better microwave. We got a color TV. They had to get 2 color TVs. It was so strange, the competitiveness that went on. But they always had so much money, but they were also just a little bit snobby. They went to a private Catholic school.
I think this also comes back to like, so I always see competition as you are the only one who chooses if you're in competition. So if you see those things that they're doing as competitive and you're less than, the only person that represents is yourself or your mum, which is so hard to hear or see, because you're like, but they're doing it, they're the ones that are being competitive. But competitive really comes down to how we're seeing the situation.
Your interpretation of it.
It's your interpretation of that. And maybe it's only highlighted by your reticular activating system, or that part of your brain, because you've bought this certain thing, and then now you've noticed that they've got it too. And the story that you tell yourself is, we're not good enough, we don't have enough money, or they've now like gone and one-upped us in some way. Whereas this may or may not be, we don't know, but it may or may not be even on their radar.
Yep.
Maybe they buy a heap of stuff all the time, and it's just coincidence that these things happened. Or maybe they are rich assholes. Who knows,
Their daughter did used to cross the road when we were walking down the road, so she didn't have to talk to us.
And it's the story that you tell yourself. You're saying because she didn't want to talk to us, or she didn't have to talk to us. But maybe she had anxiety, and it's so hard. And I think we tell ourselves these stories from our childhood to reaffirm that we aren't good enough. And everybody has this story to some degree. And if we feel that, our subconscious will bring in all the things in our field to prove that right, which sucks, because why would we want that to be proven right?
So then, if we're raised as a victim, which most of us without money generally are in some way, shape or form, raised as a victim, and we live with a victim mindset and we're in a lack mindset, kind of get that we're in a lack mindset, trying to move into a more an abundant mindset, but can't necessarily see, because you can't always see where your lack mindset is. All you can see is that you don't have an income, or you don't have the things that you want, you don't have the material things that you want, or you can't afford to live in the place that you want to live.
Other people, not for me.
Yes. So then you can kind of see. So I can see, if I look at the difference between the lifestyle that I have and maybe the one I want to have, there's a difference. So I know that there has to be a lack in there. How do you start identifying the lack thoughts or the lack feelings? Like, where's that start point to start unraveling it all?
I think unpacking it and owning it, which can be really confronting.
Yeah.
Because it's literally unraveling the past stories that you've always known to be true, and then looking at them going, maybe they're not true. Like, you know, when I started my coaching business, I had one of my friends say to me, no one would ever pay that much money for coaching. But this was her interpretation and her perception of that. And at the time I was like, oh, maybe, you know, people don't have money. You know, I grew up in an area where certainly not a low socioeconomic area, but it's definitely not a wealthy one either. So my thoughts were kind of like, well, yeah, maybe people don't have money. Maybe people don't, but like, people do. And people had a lot of money. Not all people, but there are people out there. So I think it's about, I guess, the perception of what is a lot of money is key to this. And also broadening your awareness around people who make money and the stories that they are good people, bad people, snobs, or whatever it is. That's a big part of it, because obviously your identity with who you are, if you are, you know, humble and caring and all that is associated with having this like, you know, mediocre income or normal income, then the people who are wealthy, you know, how do you truly identify with them? And working out, well, I see them as, you know, snobs or rich or whatever. And then unpacking that, going, is that really true? And then highlighting areas where you can actually see that there are people that have money that are good people. So my cousins, for example, they were wonderful people, like beautiful people. And there was still this victim mindset, I think, you know, inside my family, because they weren't earning enough money. So it was a trigger, because we wouldn't accept in ourselves to be able to earn that much money, because our beliefs about money to begin with, and our beliefs about who people were if they had money.
And there's also that you earn enough to pay the bills, but that's it. That you don't need, like, I come from you don't need those pairs of shoes. They're like $350. You can make do. There's a lot of make do. I can hear a lot of make do in my vocabulary with my daughter saying, can't you just make do with what you have?
Yeah.
Like, that would be
what you have. And
be happy with what you have. Don't want anything more, because then it brings up your own guilt as a parent of not being able to provide. But it is that, just make do with what you've got.
And that's a wonderful lesson to learn, is actually being content with where you are right now. Because for me, money is like, sometimes I see it as monopoly money. Like, I might do, you know, a 30K week or a 30K month, or it all seems the same to me, because unless I'm spending it or feeling it in some way, then it's just numbers. So the way of like feeling the abundance and feeling that money coming in, to me, is actually how you use it. So for me, what money is, it allows freedom. So freedom is one of my highest values. And to have freedom, that means I have staff in my business so like, I don't make my bed, I don't do any cooking, I don't clean my house. You know, my water bottle gets filled up on the side of my bed each day. These things for me are important to allow me freedom, so that I can then spend quality time with my kids, and also step into my business and do the things that I want to be doing, or, you know, some people call it like your genius zone, spending time and energy in the things that you love doing. And I'm happy to outsource and pay for those things. Making money doesn't make me like happy, or doesn't really, you know, like, money, lots of money can come in a week. I think last week was like 18K in sales. And then like, my husband's like, oh, you're happy with that? And I was like, doesn't really mean anything. Like it's more, I see that 18K of like, how many weeks wages is that for my staff? Because that's actually funding the lifestyle that I want to live. And that's what makes me feel abundant. That's what makes me feel rich. It's not the money that's sitting there. It's the things that it can do for me and my family. It's our caravan that I'm looking at out the front. That is like one of the most beautiful caravans out there for off-road. And we've just purchased a new one. And we want to travel Australia, and being able to know that my business can run, you know, we might even take an au pair to help us with the kids, and we can just go and not have to sell our house and sell all the things to go and do that trip. We can actually do it comfortably. It's leaving the aircon on if we choose to be comfortable. It's the feeling of like what money can do for us. So it's actually spending the money, not so much having it in the bank. Does that make sense?
It really does. And I want to ask you, how do you get from a victim mindset to that? Because I constantly walk around going, oh man, because freedom is my thing too. And I walk around going, I struggle to cook food. And so when I went through a lot of trauma, I ended up with quite a dark eating disorder. But most of it came around that lack of freedom that I felt, that lack of control, that lack of freedom, because my mum was passing away, and that took a lot of freedom away from me. And also I just had a newborn baby. So it's like in the course of 4 months, I had a baby and then found out my mom was dying. And it's like my freedom just got sucked up. And that resulted in me, because prior to me getting pregnant, I was traveling around Australia. I had a car, I had a caravan. I was lying in the caravan thinking, I own this. This is mine. This is
done it.
Like, I paid for this. No one paid for it. I worked and I did something I love to do, and I created the money to pay for this. And it was such a different feeling to then have freedom just sucked out of you, because I just had a baby. I was a single parent.
Priority shift, right? You had a huge priority shift.
They did shift quite dramatically. But I remember thinking, if I had someone that could cook food and I had someone that could clean the house, that would just take off so much pressure and struggle, because cleaning and cooking, I'm not the best at it. I have to say, I'm not very good at either of those two skills.
Yeah. And it really depends, like, you know, when you put a price on your freedom and a price on your mental health, and again, this is all subject to personal circumstances and situations, but I guarantee you'd have someone close by that would be happy to earn an extra $30 an hour to come over and clean and cook for you for an hour every single day.
I wish it was $30 an hour here. People are charging between $50 to $60 an hour to clean your house.
Yes, if they own their own business, it definitely there, because they've got their own expenses and fees. But I mean, like, if you had a family friend or someone who just wanted to earn a little bit of money on the side, like I've got some friends who, she's just starting her business, and because she hasn't set it up as a business, she's happy with $30 an hour. So I've just outsourced my cleaning to her so that my nanny can, you know, spend time with the kids. And super resourceful. She brings over her 18-month-old as well. So they all play together. It works out really well. One of the things you said before, Kaylee, was about like making do with the money. And, you know, can you just make do with these things? And I think
it's me with my dressing gown. They've got holes in them at the moment, and it's cold. And I'm looking at it going, I'm just going to make do. My Ugg boots have a hole in the toe. No, I'm going to make do for another year. My daughter's just growing out of her pajamas. I went, honey, can you just make do? They're only $20 at the shops, but it's like, no, can you just make do this year?
Make do with them. Yeah.
Just make do. Just get another year out of them. But that's also my upbringing, was you got as much out of what you had as you physically could. I remember having pajamas that were too short because we just had to make do for another year, because next year mum would then buy enough that would then be too big, that we would then, you know, slowly grow into, and you would get 4 years out of one pajama, because they would be too long and then they would be too short. Because we would make do for 4 years.
So here's a simple tip. Whenever you go to say, can you just make do? why don't you make it a choice? Look, we could choose to go and buy new things. How about we choose to utilize this until next year or next time and really make it a choice so it's an empowered decision? Like, yeah, we could go and spend the $20 and go buy the new shoes if we want, but do we need to? Could we choose to keep these? And just ask yourself, because when you're making the choice and going, actually, you know what, they're okay. Yeah, I can choose to. Choosing to is empowering. Whereas when we're like, can you make do? And it's like, oh, like, obviously I have to.
Yeah.
It's disempowering. So it's about the feeling in that. If we go back to talking about like that victim mindset and how to come out of that, and break this cycle, whether it's like an intergenerational thing that it just keeps, history repeating itself,
or just a woman thing or a man thing.
Yeah,
like this, obviously this is mainly for women because I'm female and a single mom and brought up with that lack mindset and that that mindset of, well, you can't earn money. You're a female. You are supposed to be nurturing. You're the nurturer. Man is the hunter. I'm unraveling that horrendous belief. It affects everything.
And I think you can start to tell some like more empowering stories. So this week is the first week that my husband is now having Fridays and Mondays off. So he's essentially cut back to a 3-day work week, because of my business, to allow him some more time to spend with our kids, which is so, so exciting for us. With the mindset around money, whether it's around like what you can earn or how you see others, I think a really great way to start making a change, Kaylee, is to firstly identify when the stories are coming up. And then say you see something and you think, oh, I can't afford that, or I don't, whatever it might be. We'll just go with, I can't afford that if you see something. And identifying, oh, maybe that's actually a money story that I've got going on, because I could afford it. Like, there's money in my bank account. I could go and buy this, but I don't see the value in it. So you start to go, actually, I can afford it. So you go, what's my old story? Why is it that I can't afford it? Even though I know I have money in the bank. And you can see that your values are that you actually just believe that you could do without it or make do. And then say to yourself, what would like a really wonderful, generous, wealthy person say to themselves in this moment right now? What would they say about this? So perceptually positioning yourself into someone with money and with that abundance and with that mindset, so that you can then, it's about making a choice. It's not about just going, oh, I heard on this podcast that I should just go and spend my money because if I feel rich, then I'm going to be rich. And obviously that's just a load of shit.
Yeah, there's lots of people with credit card debt in the law of attraction community that heard that.
Yeah, I just believe it will happen. But asking yourself in that moment and really feeling into your body about the choice of, can I afford this thing? Yes or no? Will it make me feel good? Like, what are the benefits of having this? Whatever the questions are that you want to ask yourself, and then making that decision. If I really want this and I'm going to buy it, I'm going to feel really, really good about it, as opposed to then feeling guilty about it. And you might go and buy the thing. Let's just say it's a brand new iPhone. And when you get it, instead of going, oh, I shouldn't be spending this money on this, like it's too expensive or whatever it might be, it's feeling into this and doing exactly what you said about the caravan. I made, like, this happened for me because I could afford this and I bought this for myself. And it's about feeling good about that. Once you can start to feel good about it, you can actually just start to make it normal, make those things a normal part of your life. But the most important thing is really identifying where they're coming up, because if you can't identify that they're money blocks, which can be quite difficult for people if this is, these are the stories that they've been telling the whole life, because to them, they're not stories. To them, they're true. It's like
real. Yeah.
It's real, right?
Yeah.
Because it is. That's the reality that they live in. So starting to, I guess, identifying what are my money blocks and what are my stories, and even getting a list out and writing 10 money stories down. And it's so interesting what comes up. And for me, the food one, like now, sometimes I'll catch myself looking at the special board But if I'm liking something on the other one, I'd be like, just buy myself the one that I want. You know, it might be like $6 more. At the end of the day, it's $6. I actually bought this like a toothbrush holder from Kmart. And when I was in there, I was looking at this nice, like dark one that would go with the bathroom more, but they were $6. And then I'm looking at this $2 one, and I wanted to buy one for inside the bathroom, like one for the vanity, one for the shower. And we have an ensuite and a bathroom. So I needed 4 in total. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at this going, oh, it's, you know, it's $6. So it's 3 times more expensive. And I've got to get 4 of them. That's so many. And every time I look at the shitty $2 ones that I got, I just think, why didn't I fucking spend the $6 and get the ones that I wanted? Yeah. So that is a constant daily reminder to me. Why did I get the white $2 toothbrush holders when I wanted the $6 ones? And the amount of time and like energy that I've looked and thought of that. Think about the cost difference, right? So $8 as opposed to whatever is $24. If I just spent the extra $16, I wouldn't go through these disempowering feelings about toothbrush holders.
Yeah,
probably once a week. Okay.
Which seems crazy, but that's kind of where the brain goes, where I do that. We went, simple thing like cotton buds. And I'm standing there, I'm looking at the price going, do I get better quality ones? Or that were, I don't know, $5.50 for a packet, or do I get the ones that are $2.50 for a packet? Because then I'm not spending the $2.50, which could probably be going to cat food or dog food or anything other than these. And so I went for the cheaper ones. But then, of course, the cheaper ones, when you use them, they bend in half. And like
you need double as many.
You need double as many because they bend in half and then you can't use them. So it's like, damn, now I have to get another one. And it's the same.
There's a saying, and it's like, is it it's like poor people pay twice, or like the less, like, because you buy the lower quality thing and then it's not as good, so then you've got to buy more, or you've got to buy double. And if you just bought the expensive thing, like even like bulk buying, like if you have the money to bulk buy things, you're paying less, obviously, but some people don't even have the money to be able to do that, so they're buying more expensive but less.
Or you do what I do, which is I buy everything wholesale, like all of our food I buy wholesale, because we only eat organic food, and I cannot see the value in paying retail pricing for organic food. I think it's insane. So then, of course, there's this resourceful part that I actually really appreciate, because it means that I can pay $2.50 for bananas instead of $6.50 for bananas. And when you have that resourcefulness, it comes in handy, and I've got to be really careful not to punish myself for that. But then there is the other aspect of, and I just did an order and a friend went down and pick it up, but I have to buy 13 kilos of bananas. And so most of them end up in the freezer, which is fine. But then I have sitting right here on the floor next to me is a 20-kilo box of sweet potatoes that have been sitting on the floor because I've been using them to prop something up for the last, I think, 2.5 months.
Wow.
And I opened up the box yesterday to look to see how they were, and like half of them have rotted. And
I was going to say, how long do they last for?
I should probably actually get rid of those because they're going to the chickens.
Yeah.
But then I've just wasted, because that is a $65 box of sweet potatoes that is now sitting there. And then I have tins and tins and tins of tomatoes and tins of beans and lentils that I thought I would eat, that I bought in bulk so I could do the bulk order. But they've been sitting there for, over a year.
Yeah. I think that
sometimes, am I going to use those?
Yeah, I think sometimes, imagine if you had just went and bought the regular amount, you might have paid a little bit more at the time, but overall, maybe you're actually paying less.
Yes, especially with the volume of wastage.
Yeah, I was going to say, my son would eat all of the bananas, so
bananas are easy because they go in the freezer, but sweet potatoes, they can't go in the freezer. Doesn't work the same.
No.
And I don't have that much freezer space. But it does, that lack mindset where you buy in bulk and you think you're getting a deal. It can actually end up costing more.
Oh, the perception of as well, like, and this kind of goes the other way. So the perception that more money equals better product or service or whatever it might be. So
yeah,
my husband is a stickler for this. He will always buy the most expensive thing. So he clearly doesn't have any money stories going on other than like, no, get that one. It'll just be better. And I'm like, why is it better? Like, they're both made like from the same place. They're probably made in the same factory. One just has like a different tag on it. And he's like, just get the better one. Just get the better one. I'm like, if this one had a bigger price tag on it, you would think that that one was the better one. Like, to me, that's not being smart with money.
mm-hmm.
So I think there's got to be like
a balance.
A balance. And, you know, like a pendulum, right? If you've got these really like victim mentality, like poor money mindset, swinging to the opposite end, it might be way too much, way too soon. So on that pendulum, it's like, where do I find my balance between, maybe you still look at the specials board when you go to the pub for lunch, but also if there's nothing there that you really want, get the bloody thing that you get the thing that you want, you know, even if it's $10 more or $15 more, like the little things that you can do like that and start to feel good about it, I think start to shift that pendulum of like, I'm worthy to have this, you know, food or handbag or like whatever it might be. And it also, as a society, how we value material things really differs. Like, I think even if I, you know, was bringing in $2 million, that's my goal for next financial year, is to bring in 2 million in revenue. Mm-hmm. I probably would still just wear my Lorna Jane tights every single day. Like, I'd probably start a YouTube channel called the $1 Million Boganette, because I just don't like, I want to be comfortable, as opposed to wearing like, you know, Louis Vuitton handbags and all that sort of stuff. But for me, it's about having like comfort and yeah. So, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with, you know, buying brand name things, of course, but it's the way that we see it. And I actually went out for lunch a couple of weeks ago with some girlfriends. Actually, it was probably a couple of months ago now. And one of the girls had like I think it was a Versace handbag. And my other friends were like, oh my God, is that a Versace handbag? Like, everyone sort of went a little cuckoo over this handbag. And I'm thinking, like, does a handbag like give me a massage, or, you know, like what's so
Does
good?
It give me a happy ending?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, but I was like, be appropriate.
That's all right. I'll be inappropriate for you.
Thank you. I was thinking it, but you said it. So yeah, I was kind of like thinking, like, you know, this podcast, this Versace handbag, people really valued that. And I kind of thought, like, the perception of brand items gives you this like street credit, or this, you know, thing. Like, I bought a Mercedes last year before, I can't remember, and it's new, you know, it's a 2021 or 22 Mercedes-Benz, and I never thought that I'd buy a brand new car with my money stories and my, like, don't buy a new car, like, they lose their value the moment that they leave the
the moment they leave, you drive out that driveway, it's lost its value. Just get a second hand.
Lost all your money. And it's funny is the cousin that I was talking about, their family drove Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah,
because I remember when they got their first one. And for me, like, having that car, particularly because I just wear like whatever clothes, it's a part of, like, I guess, the perception that others have of myself and my business, because I guarantee there's a lot of people that aren't on the inner circle within what I do and the transformations that people have, and they don't really know, because it's an online business as opposed to like a, you know, a shop front. So for me, a part of buying that car, not only does it feel fucking amazing to get in, and like, yeah, it's a beautiful vehicle, but I like that people can see that and go, oh, she is successful in her business. Oh, it's not a hobby, you know, like the amount of times that people are like, oh, how's your little side gig going? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, my little side gig probably just earned more than you get in 10 years, but thank you, my little side gig's good. And a little side gig, just bought my family a brand new $180,000 caravan and my Mercedes Benz.
But then there's also that value, isn't there, between knowing whether your ego is seeking validation by getting the car, or whether, not saying that that's what you're doing, but I'm just using that as an example.
But it's
whether
true.
Or whether you are, yes, or whether you are getting the car because you love the brand, or you love the style, or
I chatted to my financial planner about the car. And because I was like, oh, like I love it and I like it. It's not something that I value highly in having. Like I had a Hilux before that. It was a new car, and I had a new RAV4 before that. So I sort of entered the new car market. I'd been in that for a while, and actually made money on those cars because of the time that we were at. The secondhand car market went through the roof, right? So I've been like incredibly abundant with cars and selling them. And he said to me, he's a financial planner. He was like, look, yeah, maybe the car is a good idea. And also, I know that like we need to keep up our appearances. And I think he meant that because I'm a life coach, or have a successful business, or do like business mentoring. And he's like, I've got my BMW out there. So for him as well, it was like this part of like keeping up appearances. And I thought that's so funny, because it's so true that people do look at what you drive, at what you wear, at what you dress in. So for me, I think I like things that are practical. And the caravan for us is actually for traveling Australia. The car, that was a complete luxury experience. And one for me that was the moment where I thought, like, my business did this and I hadn't gone and spent a heap of stuff on myself. So that was a really big fuck yes. This is just all amount of luxury. This is because you can do it, because you have made this and you have earned this money. So for me, that was just a complete luxury buy for myself. And I'm so, so proud of that milestone in my business.
Which is amazing. I wanted to, there was something you said in all of that has just been rattling around in the back of my brain while we've been talking, which I kind of realized because on the call I did this morning, I was talking, because he was interviewing me, and I was talking about how I had to learn. So my brain was programmed to be a victim. It was programmed in the negativity. It was programmed. That's all it knew. So my upbringing, all through my 20s, all through my 30s, some of my 40s, it was just this constant negative, punishing voice in my head that made me feel like a worthless sack of shit all the time. Every minute of every day, I would wake up feeling like a worthless sack of shit. I'd go through my day, I'd get to the end of the day and go to sleep, and I'd feel like a worthless sack of shit, and then start the whole day again. And I got to this point where I was standing outside in the backyard, and I just went, maybe this is it. Maybe this is just, I remember my mom, 2 days before she died, I was talking to her, and we were talking about her life, and she said, you know what, maybe this was just my lot in life. This was just, because she had a hard life. And she said, maybe this was just it for me. And I heard myself say that to myself, and I felt it. And I went, maybe this is just my lot in life. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is as good as my life is going to get, that I am just going to go through life feeling like a worthless sack of shit. And then I don't know what changed exactly, but I just stood there and I had compassion for that part of me. And I just went, I'm so sorry that is what you feel about this life, about my life, about us. I kind of refer to me in the third person, in that I call the voices in my head we, not just me. And it's not me, it's us. It's we. There are so many different parts inside of me that because I'm not identifying with those parts anymore. But what I really got from that conversation, and now having this conversation with you, which I so appreciate, it's no different. I don't have an abundant money mindset. I don't have money wisdom. I don't have that value around spending money. And this part of me it's like this, I have to learn this. I now need to learn this completely new way of being, because the way that I know is over here, but over here is not going to get me here.
And it's going to be uncomfortable.
Of course.
Yeah, but like it's uncomfortable right now looking at, you know, whether do I get the $2.50 cotton buds or the $5 ones, you know, that's comfortable. So choose your uncomfortable, I think.
Yeah.
Look, I also had those stories playing out for me. Without going into my entire background story, I witnessed a suicide when I was 17. I was spiraled down drugs and alcohol for 4 years. I hated myself. I had multiple suicide attempts. I was telling myself that I was a worthless sack of shit. I literally was driving my car into a telegraph pole and pulled away at the last minute and said to myself, if you're not going to fucking kill yourself, start living for something. And that was the pivotal moment in my life where I realized if you're not going to take your life, just fucking step up and do something different and change your life. And I started focusing on the external things. So, you know, I got skinny, got a steady boyfriend, got a good job, like, you know, focused on the things around me. And then when we bought a block of land and built a house, and then I was in this relationship, and from the outside in, you know, society was like, oh, you've done really well. You've
ticked all the boxes. Well done.
Boxes, right? You've done the things. And I was still so unhappy. So at that stage, I had what I call my quarter life crisis. At 21, I broke up with my fiance. I got a boob job, bought a Harley Davidson. I changed careers, right? So I had this full, again, like uplift, but again, external things. I was like, if doing what society says is the thing and that didn't make me happy, then maybe doing the opposite of what society says is the thing. So I'll do that. And then it was only like a year later, I was like, I'm still dead inside. Like, is this it? There's got to be more to life than just going through the motions and going to work and back. And I'm doing all these fun and cool things. But again, I wasn't fulfilled. I didn't have contentment. I was always still looking for this next thing. And then that was when my personal development journey started. And it was a long road because I didn't know what coaching was. And I didn't know that I could step into working with someone to get me from A to B in a short amount of time.
But there also wasn't, I'm assuming that was quite a while ago.
Yes.
Like, are you in your 30s now?
34.
Yeah. So back then, similar to me, when I started mine, that's a long time ago. There weren't. It's not like it is now.
No.
There were not people out there doing this work on such a big level. You had Tony Robbins. You had Bob Proctor.
I didn't even know who that was. I didn't even know who Tony Robbins was when I started my life coaching training. Seriously, I told someone that I just invested in a very big amount of money that I thought it was at the time. And he goes, yeah, do you know, like Tony Robbins. And I'm like, who? And he's like, Tony
How
Robbins.
can you not know who Tony Robbins is?
He's like, you want to be a life coach and you don't know who he is? And I was like, I don't know who he is. Like,
yeah.
So, you know, that was a huge journey. But I think that the biggest realization in bringing it back to money is, like most things in life, you have a choice. And if you feel that you physically don't have a choice for that thing, you probably have a choice in how you think or feel about it.
Yeah.
So starting from that area, the things that you can influence, how can you like own them and step up and start making the choices that are more resourceful for you? Like, if you don't feel that you have a problem with money, then you don't need to change things. Like, I'm a very big believer in, like, don't push it uphill. You don't need to change things for the sake of changing things. But if you're looking at this going, hey, look, I actually know that I've got a lack mindset, or I feel shit about money and I want to change that, then, you know, this is your arena to play in and to make those changes.
Yeah.
Which is exciting. The way that you choose to think and feel about things can have such a high impact in such a short amount of time, particularly if you get someone's support in doing that. And if you can't have someone's support in doing that, get a diary or a journal. And to be honest, I hate writing things down. I'm not a daily gratitude journal person. I just honestly couldn't think of anything worse. But if you don't want to get support from someone, get out your notes on your phone or get out an actual notebook and hand write down your current money stories and then shifting them to something new. And when you do this, the new thing has to have better or higher emotional value than the old story. So if your old story was, I'm not worthy of spending this money on the new jacket. You know, that unworthy story, that has quite a lot of emotional weight to it. Like that must feel shit to hear that come up, right? So the new story can't just be like, I should buy this jacket because I can. It needs to be like, I am worthy of this jacket because I am an amazing person and I can afford to buy this jacket if I choose to. And I'm going to because I deserve it. You know, so stepping into something that actually shifts that emotion away from the first feeling. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. It really does.
Mm.
But it's also, I also kind of want to acknowledge the people who feel like they don't have a choice. Because I do get that. I was thankfully not there right now, but in a not too distant past, I was there where I really felt like I had no choice. I couldn't choose my thoughts. They were just there. There was no other program. There was no kindness. There was no love. There was no compassion. There was none of it existed. So it can be really hard when you are in that space where you feel like you have no option but to be here. And the starting point for me with that was the compassion.
Yeah. And being objective to the thoughts and feelings. Like, as you said, you know, sometimes I speak in this third person. It's because you know that the thoughts and stuff, that's not who you are. And you can unpack that. And I think that's why journaling does work well for some people, is because when they're writing them down, they can look at that and go, do I really believe that? Like, do I want to continue believing that? What else could I believe? Like, so you actually take it away from like, oh, this is just who I am. This is just how I feel. This is just, you know, the makeup of what's going on for me. Actually, you can change that. But here's the kicker. No one else is going to do that for you.
Yeah, that's the shit part.
That's the shit part. Yeah. Yeah. No one else is going to hand this to you on a
no one's
baby.
coming to save you. Isn't that the biggest asshole program of can we just blame Disney for that?
Yeah, right. And these again, they're the stories that we're told. Someone's going to come and save us, and no one's going to, like, particularly around your mindset, regardless of money, no one is going to help you change your mindset except yourself. Like, that's until you take full responsibility for what's going on inside yourself, regardless of your external situation.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. Things are shit. My son had a stroke at birth. He's now, you know, been diagnosed with mild cerebral palsy. I've had one of the most emotionally hard 2 years of my life, right? And I've been through some fucking horrible shit in my life. The tools that I have developed from being responsible and accountable for the way that I think and feel about things have changed my life so much, to the point where I would 100% have postpartum depression and anxiety. Yeah. And I don't, because of the way that I actually deal with the grief and the trauma of the things that I've been through since becoming a mum. And that is all down to having the ability to make sure that I'm responsible for my own thoughts and feelings, which is fucking hard sometimes.
Especially if your brain is going off, like it's going off down a rabbit hole, takes you on a journey, and you kind of have to put a stop sign up and go, no, I'm just not. I'm not going there. I'm not willing to go there. I am actively choosing not to go there. But when your brain throws it up 1,000 times in an hour, by the time you get to the hour of constantly going, no, I'm not going there.
So I think
it's exhausting in the beginning.
This is the key here, is like, so I kind of think of it like a toddler, right? If you tell a toddler, no, stop, no, what do you think they're going to do? Get louder. That's what they do. They get louder and they get louder and they get louder until you give in. So just like your thoughts, I think, like for me, and what I've noticed with clients as well, it's far more resourceful to actually just acknowledge them. And if there's a shit story coming up around whatever it might be, whether you feel guilty about something or something's going on in your life, just acknowledge that the story is there. And it's kind of like going back into this third person, so that you're like, hey, I acknowledge that I'm having this like story. I can see that I'm wanting to spiral, making yourself objective to the thought. I can see where you're going, and I just want to acknowledge you because you've served me on some level in some way, and you're here to keep me safe You're here to keep me playing small. You're here to keep me in this space. And I see you. And now I'm choosing that I actually don't need you anymore.
Yes.
So thank you for being here, but I don't need you. And the new empowering story that I'm now about to tell myself is, and then going into that new story. Yes. So that you don't have to like stop the spiral. You just acknowledge it. You see it for what it is. You thank it even and just say, thanks so much. And also I'm going to go over here now and I'm going to tell myself something far more empowering.
Yeah, I hear that. And I do want to clarify that for me, when I'm saying stop, that's exactly what I do, is exactly what you said, because we had a situation yesterday and the visual of what I saw in the situation was really, it was brutal. And my brain keeps flashing the image up in my head. And so I keep looking at it, going, putting my hand up saying, stop. I hear you. I see you. I appreciate you're showing this to me. I don't want to go down that pathway. But I love you for wanting me to see this, because I get there's something in that, and I'm going to go over here. I'm going over here and redirecting over to there, because it is hard, especially when if you're a visual person and you have visual, if you've seen a lot like you.
PTSD was like that for me. So I suffered from PTSD.
Oh, the flashbacks that you get. Yeah, I had CPTSD from kid, and just the constant flashbacks.
The dreams, they were so horrific.
Oh, and the panic attacks.
Yeah. And when they're so real, you know, it is, and I do want to acknowledge, like, it can be quite challenging to change. And this is why, like, I think particularly in like the coaching space, it's not all hashtag positivity. You just great, everything will be wonderful. It's like, no, there's real people with real fucking problems. Okay. You know, we are faced with some challenges and we can just choose to acknowledge those challenges. And I think the most important thing here is, like, as you said, that redirect, really starting to allow your brain to go into a more empowering visualization. So if you're having like visual things showing up for you, painting the neural pathways in the direction of what you want to be seeing. So you might say to myself, like, say it's around money. How do I want to be thinking about money? What do I want to see myself be doing? Like, I went to the Maldives for my honeymoon. I was gonna say wedding anniversary, for my honeymoon. And like, that was just such a lush like place to go to. So, you know, thinking about if it was for money, like, how do I want to live my life? Is it getting into the Mercedes-Benz? Is it going to the Maldives? Like, what does that look like? And being very visual. If it's more around trauma and other things that are flashing up in your life, it's like, where do I want to be? Or what do I want to be looking at? How do I want to feel? And painting that picture, even if you don't know what it is yet, just making it up or imagining it, so that you can move from that old state to a new empowered state.
So how would you handle, because this is kind of the rawest in not having money, especially if you have kids, is the homelessness. Is what if I don't have enough money to pay my mortgage and I lose everything? Or what if I don't have enough money to pay the rent and we end up losing everything and we're homeless, living in a car? Because that is the reality for so many people right now. How would you redirect that fear, that constant flash of you're going to end up homeless if you keep spending money like this? Stop spending money.
And this is what's interesting, is because we need to make sure that as coaches, we're not just making assumptions that if they just felt more abundant, that they would just have more money. Because if you took away that fear and they were just to go and, you know, go and buy the $27 big brekkie every day, they're going to run out of money at some stage, right? So it's about looking at that fear and going, is this a resourceful emotion right now? And maybe it is. Maybe that fear is actually showing up for them. So they're like, right, I need to move away from the fear. And how I'm going to do that is by planning a budget, speaking to the bank, talking to my neighbors, leaning on my parents, you know, like going to community shelters, reaching out. That fear is actually there for a reason. And like, I bring this back to the suicide attempt. If I was like it, I had to go to full rock bottom, and I've been at rock bottom a few times in my life. And that full rock bottom moment for me was the turning point for me to do something about it. So I think that sometimes having this like sense of lack or having these challenges are actually wonderful because they're there for us to learn. And until it's that fucking hard, a lot of people won't do anything about it. I think a lot of people are really wired to move away from pain as opposed to towards pleasure. So until they're in that moment of pain where they're like, the bills are coming in and then they're not able to pay them, it's until that moment, they're probably not doing that much about it. And then they're going, oh, something needs to happen here. That fear is very resourceful for them to have. So I think it needs to be very situational dependent and also looked at the reason behind that fear and what would happen if the fear was gone, because you could clear that using NLP in 15 minutes. But is that the most resourceful thing to do in that moment? Because if they didn't have fear about that and they continued to spend, or I don't know, maybe they enroll their kids into private school or something and it's just like completely ridiculous because like I don't have any fear around this, but their circumstances are different. That's like that saying, living a champagne lifestyle on a beer budget. Right? So it's about having a plan for that as well. And maybe those emotions coming up are resourceful at this time.
It's really interesting. I never thought of it like that, as to sometimes seeing your emotions as being resourceful. I know they're useful. They're always showing something, but I'd never used the word resourceful. It is such a good word to have.
Well, it would be unresourceful in that moment. So like when we in NLP, if we clear like anger, fear, and sadness, if you were to clear, so like if you had someone who was like really, really angry, their, I don't know, husband just left them, they've got anger, they've got fear around, you know, what's happening in their relationship, and they've got sadness as well. But if we were to remove fear before removing anger, and the fear was completely gone, but they were so angry, they may go and do very unresourceful things because they are just angry without the fear. So it's about looking at the way that we navigate these so-called unresourceful or disempowering or negative emotions, but in some ways, like they actually are resourceful because they make us do something about it. Like they make us change. They make us think of these things. If we didn't feel regret, like people would just go out and be fucking assholes all the time because you don't have the feeling of regret for the things that you've done. But that's a whole nother kettle of fish for another time, I think.
No, that is a really good kettle of fish right there. Like it makes so much sense. It really does. God, I don't even know. I don't think I can take this. I could take this conversation in so many other ways, but we would be here for another hour. And I feel like we've just covered so much in the hour.
Well.
I think we've done really well too. Is there anything that you feel like we've missed in all of that you think people really need to know, that are in that really deep lack, or they want to start their own business and make money and they have that? I'm a woman. I can't make money. I can't have a business. I'm not a man.
Just going back to those tools of, if I was wealthy, if I was Matilda Wand, what would I say to myself? I'm deserving, you know, I want this. I can have this in my life, and just going and doing it. Like you've got to just take, as the pendulum swings, you're not going to go all the way to the other end. Just make the little incremental changes in your life so that you can start to feel more abundant and feel like you have more money. And it's free. You can start that right now. You can start that today. You can start this literally at the end of listening to this podcast. So if you're responsible and accountable for yourself, just say one thing that's more empowering to yourself about money.
And realize you have to learn a totally new language.
Yeah.
That you probably haven't heard before, and it's going to take time.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, that is such a powerful thing to understand. Where can people find you? I think you're awesome. I want to find you. Where can people find you?
Thank you. So my mentoring business is the Global Coaching Collective. I have my email and phone number up on my website. You can reach me at matilda@globalcoachingcollective.com. Otherwise, my life coaching business is Freedom is Within. which is freedomiswithin.com.au, and Matilda@freedomiswithin, and my phone number is on there as well. So if anyone wants to reach out, or like, hey, I would actually love if people wrote down their old stories, their new stories, and sent me an email. I'd happily get back to you with my thoughts, and, you know, I can give you some little strategies on how you can, you know, even improve the new stories again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're so welcome. So lovely to be here. I really appreciate you having me on, Kaylee.
Yeah, cool. I know I always say this at the end of every show, but that call was amazing. And it was. It really was. I'm going to take my headphones out. It was really amazing in that what I realized, the best thing that I realized out of that call was the learning, the hearing that in the same way that I've had to learn how to have compassion and learn kindness and learn understanding and learn love and learn being gentle with myself, I've had to learn all of this. It's exactly the same. And it hadn't really clicked in my brain. I have to learn how to have a healthy relationship with money, and learn how to have an abundant mindset, and learn how to see the world from an abundant space instead of a lack space. I hadn't seen that before. And this call with Matilda really, it's like it stuck that in front of my face. And now I want to go and learn more about money and mindset and abundance, and and I'm not sure where to start, because I have read all the books, I have had all the books, I've watched all the videos, I've listened to all the audios, but I feel like this time I'm going to be going at it from a different perspective. And I also feel like there's a different way to learn about abundance. And I am going to see what that way is. I'm going to wait to see what shows up, while I also put in Google how to learn an abundant mindset. and then watch the videos, because it's a learning process. I guess it's for me, it's watching the videos, listening to the shows, having the conversations, and just being very gentle with the fact that I now have to learn this, as opposed to doing what I have been doing, which is punishing myself for this. It's been interesting. So if you want to find out more about Matilda and you want to check out her links, they are going to be in the description below. If you want to find out more about me, you can go to lovecreatesfreedom.com. I am coaching people in awareness and consciousness, the ability to at least be aware of what you're doing, aware of the voices in your head, aware of the feeling, to be in the observer of those experiences is a really, really powerful place. To also not be in the flashbacks and not be in the panic attacks and not have CPTSD anymore is a very powerful place. So if you feel you need any support in those areas, please do reach out. I'm definitely happy to share my journey through CPTSD and flashbacks and panic attacks and trauma, because I am on the other side, and life is vastly more pleasant on the other side when you don't feel like a worthless sack of shit every minute of every day. Too many Oh, society. Someone's going to crucify me on podcasts for all these So I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please make sure, if you are listening on the podcast, that you follow. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. And if you can share this with anyone that you feel would benefit from this conversation, I would truly appreciate it. And remember, you are truly appreciated. Mwah.